What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I'm excited to be here for morning stream number 3. We haven't done this in a couple of weeks. I've been busy. And obviously here I got a new makeshift type setup. I have just a lamp behind my camera. I wanted to fix the lighting. The lighting usually isn't great for these. And also my camera is never high enough. So, we're just doing I don't have like an official camera. I just use like my MacBook camera. So I have it on a bunch of books right now, raising it up so the camera could be higher. And I just, like I said, have a lamp for the lighting to illuminate me more instead of, because the lights, I have a green room. Don't ask. No, I will explain. When I was like 7, I'm a huge Celtics fan. I'm from New England. Um, So yeah, I painted a Celtics green. And I haven't painted it since. I don't spend much time here now as I am in university. I am off for the month, but um, so yeah, that's enough of that. But so before we get into it, some show notes. I haven't heard from Alex in a couple of weeks. Um, don't know what's going on that front. We're supposed to do an end of the year stream Friday. I believe. So we'll see what happens there. I'm gonna do it. I know that. We'll see about that. That's all I'm gonna say about that. But yeah, today we're gonna talk a little bit about the crazy Captain America 4 and Thunderbolts rumors that we've been getting these past couple of weeks. We're also gonna touch a little bit on some reports coming from makingstarwars.net about some allies that Thrawn has for the Ahsoka show, and I presume for the entirety of the Mandoverse, or at least a good portion of the Mandoverse. First, I want to I want to check how I sound here. So yeah, I want to check how I sound. Yeah, I sound good. Okay, good. Alrighty, so yeah, without further ado, let's get right into it. So, this is coming to us from the Marvel Studios spoilers Reddit. This is a compilation of all of the leaks we've gotten for Captain America: New World Order and Thunderbolts, and we'll discuss the leaks, and then we will discuss what they mean or what we think they mean. Okay, so here are some high credible sources. Leakers, and this is what they have to say about Captain America: New World Order. Thunderbolt Ross will be the president of the United States in the film, and he will turn into the Red Hulk. Sources there: Daniel RPK, supported by My Time to Shine. Hello. Can we get some toast? I believe is the other one, and Grace Randolph. All very good insiders. Um, Casey Walsh says that the movie will be about super soldier serum and its potential. Okay, that lines up of what we've been hearing, right? The Red Hulk, obviously, that makes sense, right? The serum, Hulks, super soldiers, that sort of thing. My Time to Shine. Hello, says Val will appear in the film. This is kind of expected, right? Val's been a big player so far in Phase 4, seeing her in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever and Falcon and Winter Soldier plus Black Widow. So that makes sense. Adamantium is going to first appear in this film. It will show up on Tiamut Island, and countries will go to war over it, being an open resource on unclaimed land. That it could be more valuable than vibranium. That makes a lot of sense. Adamantium does not come from Celestials in the comics, but I really like the route they're going here. It makes a ton of sense, right? Because what are you gonna do? How are you gonna use that big giant ass? Um, how are you gonna explain away that big giant ass celestial in the water? You can't just not have it be explained, right? It's kind of too big of a thing. It'd almost be like if we never got the repercussions of the Battle of New York, like we do in Homecoming, Vulture, like Ultron, like if we never got the repercussions of that sort of thing, like that, the Eternals, that's a big repercussion. That's altering the entirety of the Earth, right? altering the chemistry, the geology of the Earth. So yeah, and having it be connected to adamantium, that makes a ton of sense, right? We don't know what the Celestials are built out of. And yeah, adamantium makes a lot of sense, setting up the mutants. Okay, can we get some toast? Says that Sam, Captain America, will be looking to assemble a new team of Avengers to take down President Ross. This comes from again. Can we get some toast? According to according to the mods who are good on Marvel Studios spoiler subreddit, Hulk and She-Hulk not currently said to appear, although sources a bit more iffy on Bruce. Uh, then we have some casting from Daniel RPK. Male 30 to 50 is a Marvel mainstay character, and a male 50 to 75 businessman, polished, likely wears a suit. And then we got that hashtag show saying Sin will appear as a villain, and Hulk to appear in the film. Proven or wrong sources, we won't even get into that. So yeah, that's all very interesting. So let's discuss a little bit before we get into Thunderbolts. Let's discuss Captain America 4. Okay, Captain America 4 New World Order. So when this film was announced, um I remember being a bit confused, right? Not that the movie itself was going to come out, but the fact that Bucky wouldn't be in it. Bucky is obviously going to be heavily featured in Thunderbolts. And as we'll get into the Thunderbolts stuff later, but I want to touch on New World Order first. So we're going to be kind of a continuation of Wakanda Forever, right? Wakanda Forever was a lot of, it touched a lot on the first act, especially on the geopolitical um, landscape with Wakanda, Atlantis, those sort of futuristic, I guess you could say, nations that had vibranium, had this elite technology. I mean, the Atlanteans, or excuse me, Talokan City, um, literally being underwater, being a literal underwater civilization. How does the world deal with that? You know, the world is trying to secretly steal vibranium from Wakanda. You know, the pact between Wakanda and Talokan at the end of the film between Shuri and Namor. Really well done. Really well done, obviously, but this feels like a continuation of that story, right? These countries can no longer access vibranium because if they attack one, Wakanda will help Talokan, and Talokan will help Wakanda. So now with the celestial Tiamut in the Indian Ocean, right? The Indian Ocean, I believe. Um, these countries are going to be competing over that resource. Now, I do believe Daniel RPK. I'm not going to pull this up because it's kind of conflicted info. I believe it's here. Yeah. So Tiamut Island. So My Time to Shine Hello said on a couple days ago that um Tiamut Island is not Genosha. It does not have a name. They don't know the name Tiamut in the MCU, so they don't call this island anything. That makes a ton of sense, right? They don't have connection to the Eternals, um, or that sort of thing. Um, so it makes a lot of sense. So obviously, pretty big that Cap 4 is going to be about these nations fighting over adamantium. And how I assume Captain America 4 go, we could discuss this now. So we're going to have Red Hulk in the film. We're going to have Red Hulk played by Harrison Ford. I mean, again, that's a huge get for Marvel, right? Harrison Ford, one of the best actors, Han Solo, Indiana Jones. Him being Red Hulk is massive. Him being Thunderbolt Ross is huge in the MCU. And we know that this movie is going to be obviously Sam's trials and tribulations to Captain America, but also I could see it being a thing where the Thunderbolts are definitely going to be teased in this film. Captain America: New World Order and Thunderbolts definitely feels like a part one and part two type of film, right? Because obviously Thunderbolt Ross has to be in Thunderbolts. I mean, it's literally in the name; they're named after him. Val being a New World Order, that sort of thing, right? So in this film, New World Order, I assume there's going to be a massive conflict between all these nations, and Sam is probably not going to want this, right? I assume Sam is going to want to say there should be a sovereign thing, there should be discussed. It was a big theme in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, right? About corruption, about power, right? And we already have the conflict between the prior Avengers, which Sam was a part of, and Thunderbolt Ross. So I assume Thunderbolt Ross and Sam, who was arrested in Captain America Civil War because of the Sokovia Accords, I assume Thunderbolt Ross is going to bring back the Sokovia Accords. I assume that Thunderbolt Ross is going to establish the Thunderbolts with Val. And that's another interesting thing that it's being reported or being rumored is that Val was appointed um, head of the CIA. Is she the head of the CIA, or she's head of something? I don't remember what she's exactly the head of. By Thunderbolt Ross, um, and I also think Secret Invasion will play into this too, right? Because we know in Secret Invasion, seemingly Rhodey is working with the president, and it seems that the president might be killed by the Skrulls or something along those lines with the Skrull invasion. So we can kind of see the seeds of Phase 5 playing, right? And a big complaint about Phase 4, right, was that it was kind of jumbled all together. It was kind of all over the place. It was kind of random. There wasn't a lot of connective tissue, right? When we compare it to the end of Phase 1, the end of Phase 1 had the Avengers, right? The Avengers was the culmination, right? But like Feige said, we can't do an Avengers film every year. That's just not feasible anymore, right? Because these phases now are every about year and a half, right? They're a year and a half or so long. So it's impossible to do an Avengers film every year and a half. It would feel like too much. We were able to do that with the Infinity Saga because it was every 3-4 years we were going to get an Avengers film. So now I feel like Phase 4, we were introduced to the heroes. And when Phase 5 was originally announced, we were really confused about how we were going to get our heroes together before even the Kane Dynasty. And that was a big thing, right? That's a big thing I've seen a lot of people talk about is who was on the Avengers, right? And obviously, I think Captain America New World Order will be the first big time event where our Avengers get together. Some of our Avengers get together, maybe not all of them, maybe not the cosmic Avengers, like Captain Marvel, the Guardians, that sort of thing. But I think we'll get our Earth heroes. Cap. Um, we'll get Falcon. Joaquin Torres as Falcon. Um, we'll get some other players, maybe Hulk, maybe She-Hulk, maybe Moon Knight, maybe Miss Marvel, unless Miss Marvel is with Captain Marvel out in the cosmic area, Hawkeye, Kate Bishop, those sort of characters I think we could see on the Earth side, assembling with Captain America, Shuri possibly, maybe Namor, that sort of thing. I think we could definitely see those characters coming together before we see the big group of Avengers. Right, and I think there's gonna be a conflict, obviously between President Ross and, Cap. I think President Ross, does not want the old Avengers, right? He's gonna blame the old Avengers for a lot of stuff, this the break on the Sokovia Accords, um, the blip, whatever's happened in Phase 4, right? He's gonna blame those Avengers for that. He's gonna create his own team called the Thunderbolts, and they're essentially going to replace um the Avengers. They're gonna be his version of the Avengers with him taking the serum. And again, that's gonna be a big part of this film is the serum itself, right? We know we have the leader in this film. I assume Thunderbolt Ross has contracted him to make the serum, right? Make the serum again and make a whole new army uh that will be like the Dark Avengers. Like Thunderbolts are gonna be the equivalent of the Dark Avengers. I know the Dark Avengers were run by Norman, but it seems like they're gonna be run by Harrison Ford's Thunderbolt Ross, and I really, really like that idea. So I think that's what the New World Order is gonna be about. And to take down Thunderbolt Ross, the leader, Val, and there's two other unknown villains to this film. I assume other Hulks. I assume other Hulks. Assume we're gonna get Sam assembling a team of him, Joaquin Torres's Falcon, probably. I really think we're gonna get Bruce and Jennifer Walters. Probably also Hawkeye, Kate Bishop. That would be really cool if we got 6, 7, 8, of the Earth heroes. Shuri, maybe Namor. Those sort of heroes together to take down Thunderbolt Ross. That would be really, really interesting. But I think our villain or our heroes will fail at the end of Captain America 4. Um, because we will have the Thunderbolts movie. Now let's move back into what these leaks say about the Thunderbolts. So Thunderbolts is going to be like part two, right? Part two of this story. Um, so we obviously know the cast. The cast is fantastic. So yeah, so here we go. Robert Reynolds, the Century, will be the villain of the film and will have been created by Val. I assume this is because of the fact that in New World Order we'll establish the super soldiers here, like Red Hulk. We'll get some Hulks, but the ultimate project is going to be the super soldier known as Sentry, because the Sentry in the comics is a byproduct of um the super soldier serum. So that's gonna be really, really interesting. Sentry will start out as a member of the Thunderbolts team, but he will start hearing voices and losing his mind, going rogue and needing to be stopped at all cost. There's one more character in the Thunderbolts that isn't in the concept art, as he would be a spoiler. This is what Charles Murphy said. This is probably referring to Sentry of Red Hulk, who's a spoiler since he will first appear in New World Order. That makes a ton of sense. I am leaning towards it being Sentry. Um, but yeah, the Thunderbolts will venture into Tiamut Island, which is called Genosha, to get adamantium before other countries to do so. It's a continuation of the war for control of Tiamut Island and its adamantium, which will have started in Captain America New World Order, source Daniel RPK, but according to My Time to Shine alone, it will be called Genosha. We mentioned that earlier. Daniel RPK also says that Baron Zemo will be in the movie. I assume as an advisor, maybe. I don't think he's going to get out of prison. Um, but I think that he will be an advisor to Val or be an advisor to the Thunderbolts, helping out. We know Bucky and him have a relationship, that sort of thing. And also the Hood will be part of the team. Okay, so this sounds absolutely insane again. So we're gonna have Sentry being created around New World Order time into Thunderbolts, right? Again, this is why I say it's a continuation. I think our main heroes lose in New World Order. And I totally even forgot Shang-Chi, possibly Moon Knight. The Earthbound heroes, I think, are going to first assemble, or at least partially some of them, in New World Order, but they're going to lose. They're going to lose to Thunderbolt Ross. And I think there's going to be a big conflict there, kind of like Civil War, where these heroes are not together, and then Thunderbolts is gonna come out, and this is going to be the new Avengers type of team. This is the new team, and this is why Kane's gonna be easily going to be able to take over Earth, because the teams are not assembled. It's very much going to be Civil War-esque, where Tony and Cap are separated from each other. And here, uh, by the end of the film, I think Steve or Sam's gonna be shunned as Captain America. And again, the government's gonna try to reaffirm that John Walker is like your Captain America. Bucky is really fascinating to me, because Bucky to me was essentially arced out. I very much felt like that Bucky was an arced out character, right? But him being part of the Thunderbolts is very, very odd to me, especially since we know about his past, him with Hydra, him, being manipulated by governments. Why? What is the incentive for him joining this government team? Why wouldn't he join Sam? What's going on there? Is he going to be again a victim of manipulation by Thunderbolt Ross? Um, and not join Sam and that sort of thing. That's what I'm really wondering. What happens there? I know Sam's not gonna be in, or Bucky's not gonna be in New World Order, but I don't know if that's true or not. I feel like these films, they're gonna film pretty congruently, because there's gonna be a lot of interchangeable characters going from one film to the other. But anyways, the main mission of the Thunderbolts is to get adamantium, right? That's again, that's massive on its own. We haven't even discussed that, so we'll discuss that now. That means Wolverine. That means the X-Men. So again, these films not just setting up the Avengers forming and the conflict and why Kane is going to be able to take over Earth so easily, but also setting up the fact that adamantium, Wolverine, they're close in the MCU. We're close to having our own Wolverine in the 616. Again, it's being heavily rumored that the next saga, the next phase, the next saga after the multiverse saga will be big into the mutants. And I think that is 100% true. And I kind of like that. Marvel will have a ton of more content to be able to utilize if they can save the mutants until the next saga. That would be massive. That would be really, really big. And you can do a lot of fun stuff with the mutants for an entire saga or two. And you don't have to heavily focus on the Avengers. That's another 5 to 10 years of content right there for Marvel Studios, all the way until 2035. That's just insane to even think about to me. Um, so yeah, but anyways, back to the Thunderbolts. Back to the Thunderbolts. Sentry, right? Sentry is very, very powerful in the comics, right? Very, very insanely powerful. Um, entirely rips Ares in half, right? Rips Ares in half. I obviously think that he's going to be scaled down power wise. I think you kind of have to have him scaled down power wise because if he was that powerful, um, it wouldn't work, especially if he goes rogue. And when he goes rogue, I wonder what happens, right? We're gonna have our Thunderbolts team um, try to find this adamantium, and then Sentry just goes rogue. Who dies? Who dies? Who dies? Let's make those Red Guardian toast. Red Guardian's probably gonna get ripped in half because it would make the most sense, and he's the most loving of them, right? You would feel the most with him. Yelena's not gonna die. She's the new Black Widow. Bucky would be an interesting one, but Bucky would piss a lot of people off. So I don't think they're gonna do Bucky. I think there's a very real possibility Val could die in this film. Like this could be the culmination of a couple character stories. Um, but really, what I think happens, I think Sentry will still be super powerful, and I don't think the Thunderbolts are going to be able to handle the power of Sentry. I think he's just gonna go crazy rogue, and I think that's when we get Cap back. Cap reassembling. We're adding more Avengers characters: Rhodey, Shang-Chi, Moon Knight, and they get the Sentry with the help of the Thunderbolts. But still, I think Thunderbolt Ross will still be the conflictor there, and maybe reestablish the Sokovia Accords and say, hey, even though you stopped the Sentry, you know, we're not going to arrest you or anything because that would be bad for my image, but you can no longer do X, Y, and Z. And again, still trying to reaffirm that the Thunderbolts are his team. And again, that's why there'll be a conflict. And that's why our Thunderbolts team and our new Avengers team won't be together. Again, Thunderbolt Ross is going to be the big player in trying to separate these two teams. I think, though, at the end of Thunderbolts, that they will come together to save the day. But again, it will end on a somber note because they won't be able to go together because the Thunderbolt Ross reestablishing the Sokovia Accords or something adjacent to the Sokovia Accords. It's very similar in nature. And yeah, I think these two films are going to be massive. I think, let's think about though, like phase five, right? Phase four, we kind of had a cluster of movies, right? We had Black Widow. Black Widow, again, should have been like a phase two, phase three film. Should not been a phase four film. So I don't think you can really count that. Shang-Chi establishing a new hero that's going to be a big member of our Avengers team, right? Um, phase are also Eternals. Eternals again established another team. We don't really know how they're going to play into the rest of the saga, but I think their big play um, here will be Tiamut and Tiamut Island. I think that's the main reason that we got the Eternals film for this saga alone, and I assume they'll be in the other sagas. Like it's rumored right now by My Time to Shine Hello is Eternals 2 is going to be oh, what are they calling it? I can't remember. It's a comic run going on right now. Um uh t- 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 uh Eternals 2 is going to be Judgment Day. Judgment Day is like the Eternals versus the mutants, and the Avengers get involved. Um, so yeah, that sounds really exciting, and I think that's going to be the next phase sort of thing. That's going to be or excuse me, the next saga sort of thing. And we saw that Gilgamesh's actor for listed films upcoming. Eternals 2 was one of them. So that's why Eternals is big for the multiversal saga, because of Tiamut Island. I think that would be the big thing that we take away from Eternals. No Way Home, obviously establishing the multiverse, establishing that our heroes from other universes that we know could come together. I think that'll be big. Will we get Tony Stark and Secret Wars and probably Wolverine, Blade, all those sort of characters. Um, what else? Multiverse of Madness again, establishing the multiverse, establishing the Illuminati, establishing incursions. Again, those are big valuable lessons. Loki, the TVA, he who remains himself, literally explaining what's probably going to happen in the multiversal saga. I think when we look back on it, Loki will be literally the thing that tells us what's going to happen. And then also we'll have uh, we have Black Panther Wakanda Forever, again, establishing this whole idea that these other countries want these resources from other nations, and that they're not able to get them. Like, right? They're not able to get vibranium. Namor, Shuri team up, probably will be a part of this new Avengers team, trying to take down this Thunderbolts team with Thunderbolt Ross in Phase 5 and early Phase 6 before the Kane Dynasty. And then also, we got Thor: Love and Thunder, kind of insignificant. So you can kind of start to see the pieces going. But let me take a drink here and we'll discuss Phase 5 films. Excuse me. Um, Obviously, Quantumania, like establishing Kane as the main villain of the saga. Uh, how's he time traveling? What's he doing? What's this Kane's plan? And kind of leading us into his sinister overall motives going into the Kane dynasty and maybe Fantastic Four or whenever else we see him again. Um, Captain Marvel and Guardians of the Galaxy. Captain Marvel is rumored to end with an incursion. Again, that would be big for the 616. Again, kind of showing that the multiverse may be disappearing. Loki season 2. Or excuse me, it's showing that the timeline is branching off, right? Loki season 2, obviously dealing with the entirety of the multiverse, uh, dealing with all these different new timelines, new variants, new villains, all that sort of thing. Guardians of the Galaxy establishing a new team post the events of Guardians 3. Blade. Don't really know how that's going to play in yet, but Captain America: New World Order and Thunderbolts are definitely going to be the two biggest films in Phase 5 besides Quantumania, in my opinion. And they've crawled up my anticipation list mightily. Sentry, you're going to get Val, you're going to get Red Hulk. Um, and these two films are going to be big. These are going to be your cappers to Phase 5. Um, that really set us up for Phase 6. Like, we'll know the Avengers that are on Earth, and we'll know that there's a conflict going on there that they can't defeat Kane. They barely defeated Sentry, and that Kane is very easily going to be able to overtake Earth as the two teams are spread apart. And we'll establish this rift. We'll establish that Sam is the leader of this Earthbound team, and we'll establish that Thunderbolt Ross is the leader of the Thunderbolts. And throughout these two movies, we'll see them conflict numerous times, and we'll see how public opinion sways and how that causes a rift. Again, very similarly to Civil War, I think that they the Avengers were split apart, and that's a big reason why Thanos was able to win, and I think that's gonna be a big reason why Kane's able to overtake Earth, and probably somehow use these Avengers to fight against other Avengers or that sort of deal. It's gonna get crazy, but I don't know where they're going, but this is what I think they're gonna do. But overall, I mean, these movies sound insane. They sound great. So I can't wait to see what they do with that sort of thing. All right, let me take another sip here. Just taking a sip. Mm. Let's now move into our second, our second and final topic. We're going to talk about Thrawn's allies. Now, this was interesting and it's kind of gone under the radar. I haven't seen many people talk about it, even though making Star Wars, Jason Ward is great at what he does. Um, Jason Ward on December the 24th wrote an article. Who is Balin in Star Wars Ahsoka? Ray Stevenson? Question mark. Uh, so okay, he says over the last few months, I have heard the name Balin mentioned in relation to Grand Admiral Thrawn in Star Wars Ahsoka. This this character is really important and has an assassin and featured droid under his command. Balin has come up in a lot of conversations with my sources from Manhattan Beach and El Segundo. This is where they film. This is, I think, Manhattan Beach is where they film outside, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not 100% sure. I don't think this is outside, but I know they have a volume at Manhattan Beach, I believe. Uh, the volume is where they film the Mandalorian, Boba Fett, and Ahsoka. It's the new technology that they use. While Balin is an interesting choice for a character's name, I don't think it's a code name, but like anything, until it is confirmed, it could be. I will put the chances of Balin being a code name very low at this point in time. Perhaps the name is representative of character's place in the story. Balin was an empire. Ahsoka the Great was an emperor and sounds a lot like Ahsoka, for instance, or maybe that's a reach. Uh, yeah, that makes sense, right? That makes sense. I believe the new character is played by Ray Stevenson. The Hollywood Reporter reported Stevenson was joining Ahsoka cast was not Thrawn, who was being played by Lars Mikkelsen in the series, and who looks really tall and imposing in the part. Thrawn has sounded pretty neat in the show at the moment. I'm not sure if Balin is in charge of the new forces throughout commands or the civilization out in the unexplored Star Wars universe, but he's very important to the series and has a lot of screen time. By all accounts, the character answers to the Thrawn and appears to be loyal to him, but I can't say if he is in actuality. There could be a twist or caveat to their relationships. The ties that bind us. In attempting to put the pieces together, it seems as Balin and his assassin are tied to Thrawn, having his army resurrected by dark side shadow magics. So our grand admiral has been a busy boy while in exile, making new friends and preparing to challenge a new republic's dominance over the known regions. It seems Balin is apparently just the ally he needs in this endeavor. Okay, Ezra and the cyborg. I speculate that this means Ezra and Thrawn have long parted ways once we get into the thick of the series. My impression is those two might not have seen one another for some time. I wonder what Ezra's been doing all this time. Thrawn has been on the move. Is he seeking to counter Thrawn or just surviving in the wilderness? Also related to Thrawn and Balin is a cyborg slash droid named Karnist. However, it sounds like this character might be a dark trooper type and not a droid in totality. Point being, Karnist serves Thrawn and Balin, but is different from Balin's assassin. I like Ray Stevenson. I can't wait not to learn more about Balin. What does he want? Why serve Thrawn? Does he have ulterior motives? Yeah. Okay. Now let's read this piece. This goes into further detail about Balin and his apprentice. Okay, this also came out on December 24th. Exclusive. Ivana Sakano is Shin. It's Shin in Star Wars Ahsoka. Who is Shin? If you have followed recent stories I've dropped on Thrawn, played by Lars Mikkelsen, you have read a ton of implication that Thrawn is some kind of undead or rebuilt army under his command on the Chimera. Yes, the Chimera, Thrawn's command ship, is in Star Wars Ahsoka. I've recently broken stories of Balin, our second in command, played by Ray Stevenson. But who is Balin and who is the assassin of his? Just yesterday, Bespin Bolton dropped a confirmation. Mary Elizabeth Winstead is playing Hera on Star Wars Ahsoka. I believe he is correct as always. And with that punch in the face, let me give you a kick in the shin. Ivana Sakano is Shin. Several sources have confirmed me that Ivana Sakano is playing a new character named Shin. Shin is the apprentice of Balin, a Force user who has embraced the dark side, probably in allegiance with the Night Sisters. She is cold, calculated, and desperate to prove to herself to her Jedi Master. What? Jedi Master? Who are they? Sources have implied in which a survivor of Order 66, a Jedi named Balin, fled to the unknown regions of the galaxy for safety. Sources think Balin wanted to maintain the Jedi way but was corrupted over time, maybe from the influence of life with the Night Sisters. Shin herself might be a former Night Sister. Sometime around Return of the Jedi, before the series takes place, Balin takes on Shin as his apprentice. Somehow, Balin and Thrawn become allied, and Shin is asked to hunt and kill Ahsoka Tano. Of course, Ahsoka actually grew up fighting off characters like Ventress, so it is doubtful Shin will challenge Ahsoka too much, and this will bring Balin out into a larger conflict with Tano herself. The subtleties of the backstory may differ when we get to the final version of Star Wars Ahsoka, and all the supplementary material and publishing begins. This, however, is my understanding of the simple backstory that seems to have been used during production to inform script and motivation. These characters are a mystery to Ahsoka and first, and she will learn about them as episodes unfold. I just do not know to what extent and how much exposition will inform us about them on screen. Oh yeah, this part is speculative. This is speculation, but I'm getting vague sense that Ezra Bridger, wow, and Thrawn were split or separated and have been for a long time. Ezra sounds like he's in hiding, perhaps lost on purpose. After figures out Balin is evil and maybe Ezra stays out in hiding because evading Balin is more doable than the entirety of Palpatine's empire. When the Empire falls, thanks to Luke Skywalker, Ezra missed a whole of that while lost at sea, so Ahsoka's out there looking for lost Jedi. In the process of this, Ezra and Ahsoka will have to fight Balin and Shin to safely return home and protect home from them. I suspect Thrawn wants to use Balin to kill Luke Skywalker, like an heir to the Empire with Jorah Sabayoth. Thrawn now has a Jedi apprentice. Thrawn has a Star Destroyer. Thrawn has resurrected or rebuilt army under his command. There's a real threat to the New Republic, even with Luke Skywalker's only begun to rebuild his Jedi Order. I have been told Mon Mothma is relevant to the new shows. She did create the Military Displacement Act, which has left the galaxy vulnerable to such an unknown threat. She's likely in these shows in a cameo-sized part. It sounds fun. It does sound fun indeed, but I kind of disagree with it. And I want to first establish what I disagree with. I would have personally had Ezra been the Balin of this show. Ezra been the dark side or the lean and dark side user of the show. I think it would have made a lot more sense, especially since we know Thrawn was with Ezra for such a long period of time. Thrawn's manipulation to me should have been able to sway Ezra Bridger, right? Or could have, I shouldn't say should, but could. We know Ezra's had some dark side tendencies. I think it would have been a really conflicted story for Ezra and for especially Ahsoka, right? It would have. Star Wars is like poetry; it rhymes, as George said, right? Obi-Wan lost Anakin, right? Ahsoka lost her master. Be really interesting. I know. Kanan was the master of Ezra, but Ahsoka was also a big part of Ezra's teachings. If Ezra fell, right, how would she deal with that, right? And then we could get this whole arc where she discusses with Obi-Wan, right? Discusses with Anakin why he turned, how to deal with it, how to approach it. She could have discussions with Luke of how do you sway Ezra. So we could really incorporate all of the important characters in her life if Ezra is gone, if Ezra is the dark side user. But that's not the way they're gonna go, right? So again, to reiterate the point, like Ezra being the right hand man of Thrawn would have been a lot more interesting, a lot more compelling to me. It would have made a lot of sense, right? Ezra's dark side tendencies, Thrawn's manipulation, being with Thrawn for a decade, would probably do that to you, right? Would definitely do that to you. And Ezra doesn't have to be fully evil, but it would have been nice because then we could have had those conversations between Ahsoka and Anakin, like, how do I deal with somebody who's leaning or tapping into the dark side of the Force? How do I combat that? We could have done some things with Obi-Wan, like how do I deal with a fallen apprentice? Again, I know Ahsoka wasn't exactly the master of Ezra, but she did have a big part in his teachings. And then she could have conversations with Luke. Luke obviously being the one that turned Vader back into Anakin. A conversation between Ahsoka and Luke about how do I bring somebody back? Like how do I approach that? You were able to do that. How do I approach that? I think those are all interesting positions that could happen. Um, yeah, I mean, I think those are all really, really fascinating ideas, and I so that's where I come to disagree with the decision to have this Balin and Shin. It really appears that they're going to go kind of heir to the Empire with this. I don't know if I'm a huge fan of it. I also think Ezra would be somewhat of an interested threat to even Luke, right? They're born practically on the same day. Um, Ezra, we've seen his abilities. Balin, being a former survivor of Order 66, not really knowing him. Shin, I mean, unless we go the route that like Shin is like a magical user that we've never seen before. And again, I think that would be cool, right? Like I've said in streams in the past, if we're gonna go this way, like it'd be really cool to explore more of the origins of the Force or how the Force is viewed in this outside region of the galaxy. I still think it's part of the unknown regions. I just think it's a different part of the unknown regions. And again, it could explain a lot about Exegol. It could explain a lot about the Sith out there and why they were on Exegol. It could explain a lot about the Jedi who fought out there, right? And it could explain a lot why these beings are out in the unknown regions. It could talk about how the connection to the Force is stronger out there, and how over time the Jedi have forgotten about that. And if Shin herself is like this Force user from the outside that uses this Night Sister type of magic, it could be a tough challenge, right? If Balin has also learned this, right? So we could see something like that, and we could see that these unknown beings are really powerful to take on, are really even tough for Luke and Ahsoka to take on. And again, it's really interesting. I think we learn in the Ahsoka show her destiny is to save Luke. I really think there's gonna be something that happens that I think Balin and Shin will learn about them, and we'll learn that they're not like Force users. We know they have learned this type of magic that the Night Sisters have. That these new unknown Night Sisters that is tough for Luke. Kind of similar to like almost the opposite, but similar to the Yuzon Vaughn, where the Yuzon Vaughn weren't susceptible to the Force. That sort of thing with the Balin and Shin would be kind of cool, and I could kind of see them going that way with that sort of thing. And again, I think with this, when you read it face value, it's like how would Luke work? Because I feel like you have to have Luke in this. Because I feel like you need one more big Luke Skywalker moment, right? It would be almost like if you had Anakin do nothing for 3 years in between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. Just like the Clone Wars was like 2 battles. It's mostly just a political warfare. That would make sense. You have between 6 and 7. You have 30 years or 20 years, give or take, right before he goes into exile. You can utilize this story here um, to really tell one last great Luke Skywalker story, right? Because it just feels like we haven't gotten the almighty Luke, right? We haven't gotten the almighty Luke fighting somebody. You can make the argument that him force projecting is a great moment. Sure, but I'm talking like battle, like face to face battle, right? We haven't gotten that. We haven't gotten that great Luke moment, right? Even when he defeats Vader, Vader's like an old man. Vader is conflicted at this moment. We know this. Luke is not his all powerful self. So that's where I stand with it. So I think Balin and Shin are going to use this new type of magic that we've never seen before, and kind of use a resurrected sort of army like they talk about. And again, this could all tie into the sequel trilogy. Why is Exegol in the Unknown Regions? Why is the Unknown Regions so unexplored? And again, it could tie us into even post-sequel trilogy projects, which are being kind of rumored right now. It's heavily rumored that Lindelof's Star Wars film is going to take place in the sequel trilogy era or just post-sequel trilogy era. And it's rumored that Sean Levi and all those other cast of characters, Taika, I very much feel like that all of their projects that take place post sequel trilogy. And I'm actually really excited for that, especially if the Mandoverse kind of establishes the unknown regions and that sort of thing. I've said that like Marvel, like Star Wars needs to adapt the Marvel formula where they pick a time, they have a bunch of projects in that time period. Because right now we're convoluted, we're all over the place. Acolyte before the Phantom Menace, Andor during like the time of the rebellion. We have the Mandoverse in between 6 and 7. Once you get done with all that, pick that time post sequel. Have 5 or 6 movies. Have the Taika. Have the Kevin Feige. Have the Patty Jenkins. Have the all of these films. Sean Levi, Lindorf's, the Ryan Johnson trilogy. Whenever the hell that comes out, or if it comes out, post sequel trilogy. Have your movies and shows post sequel trilogy, and build up to a conflict in that time period. So it's all connected. It's an interconnected universe. That would be great. That'd be fantastic. Instead of just being confined to a trilogy and then some shows to fill it in. I feel like they got to adapt that model, and I think it would work excellently. But back to this. Again, I'm really curious. We only have less than a year to wait before we see it. Uh, I'm a little worried how they're gonna make this work. The new beyond, as they're calling it, the new unknown explored space. I'm not opposed to it, obviously, but seems like we're kind of copying Heir to the Empire. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I'm not saying that's a great thing either. I was hoping for maybe something a little bit more original, but I'm still really, really excited for it because I trust John and Dave, and I'm sure if it also is true that Filoni's working with Sean Levi and Lindoff, that we'll see this new beyond. We'll see this unknown part of the galaxy more, and it will we'll come to understand the Jedi and Sith even more, and how the Force originated out there, or how the Force is viewed there, how that has influenced our galaxy. And that would be really, really interesting. Again, there's still a lot of unknowns, still a lot of questions, but uh, having a dark side type of assassin for Thrawn is very, very interesting, very, very compelling. Um, and I think it's totally, totally going to work because I think Thrawn needs that enforcer for you to really, really feel a threat to Ahsoka, to Ezra, to Luke. And yeah, I think it's going to be very unique and interesting. I'm sure they understand how powerful Luke is at this time, and I'm sure they're doing their due diligence. But I just wish it was Ezra. I think that would have made a lot more story sense. But hey, in John and Dave, we trust. I think that's going to do it for the show today. Obviously, a very, very good show. Talked about a lot of stuff, covered a lot of stuff with Thunderbolts, Cap 4, Thrawn's allies. I will be back and hopefully with Alex on Friday, December 30th, for a regular Wars in the Stars stream. We'll be doing our end of the year rankings for all of the entirety of Marvel. For the entirety of Star Wars, we'll probably give out awards for our favorite projects, our favorite characters, our favorite villains, that sort of thing. So I hope you can join us then. And as always, may the Force be with you and may you stay burdened with glorious purpose. See you next time. Peace out, everyone.